Good afternoon. This is Sandy Tankus for TOS50.com, the other side of 50. And I'm here once again with Dr. Donna Geffner, Director of Graduate Programs, Speech, Language, Pathology, and Audiology, and Speech and Hearing Center at St. John's University. Good afternoon again, Donna.
Hi, how are you, Sandy?
And Dr. Geffner is going to speak to us today about people, adults, with ADHD. We hear about children having ADHD. We don't hear very much about adults having ADHD. Can adults have ADHD?
Absolutely. For one thing, 2/3 of the children who've had ADHD throughout life become ADHD adults. I think the difference is that they're not as hyper, but they carry on some of the very similar symptoms like distractibility, poor organization, messiness, failure to pay attention to detail, inability to get started, procrastination. These become the people who are both the lazy adults, but they really have the ADHD, and you can spot it because they're often disorganized and they're late for appointments and they have trouble paying attention. I see it often in the college population. I see it with a lot of adults, and when you explore it, you find out that as children, that's how they were.
And can ADHD be acquired, or is it something that you're born with, or?
Well, ADHD is a neurobiological condition, which means that it has something to do with your, we believe it to do with the reticular formation of the brain and its alerting device. But more or less, I think what happens is in our fast-paced society, Sandy, as you well know, with emails and instant messaging and our Blackberries and things that keep us on the go all the time, I think we're always so much on the go that we've become acquired ADHD. But technically, ADHD is not something that just happens to you. I think it comes along with what's called executive function disorder. People with ADHD often have what's called executive function disorder, which is a problem in executing, in getting the job done. It has nothing to do with your work or being an executive in a business. It has to do with seeing that something is finished from beginning, middle to end. And oftentimes people with ADHD adults can't see the project through. It leads to problems in their work environment. It leads to problems in relationships. It leads to problems in sustaining a marriage sometimes because it's frustrating for a wife who's organized when the husband isn't, or vice versa. So it does lead to lots of other emotional issues and difficulty in communicating.
Well, you're involved with speech, language, pathology, and audiology. What does that have to do with ADHD?
Because so many oftentimes when I see people, I find that they have the ADHD, and they often have trouble with auditory processing. They don't process the information easily. They don't attend. They don't listen long enough. They mishear. They have trouble in timing. They don't get the message right away. And so it does impact on their listening skills greatly. It also impacts on some of their language skills. We find people with ADHD have often difficulty reading social cues. They have difficulty picking up nuances and jokes and sarcasm, picking up what somebody may be feeling. They may not be as attuned to how the person that they're speaking to is actually feeling or conveying. So it does affect communication skills.
Well, how does somebody know they have ADHD?
Well, there's some hallmark behaviors. And oftentimes there's not a blood test, and there's not, there are some computer tests that one can take to test their vigilance, but it has to do with certain behaviors. And, inattentiveness, easily distracted by background noise, messy, disorganized, and an inability to self-regulate, which is a very important key here, inability to self-regulate.
Is there any medication on the market that's helpful?
There certainly are medications that adults can take. There's Strattera that has been used for adults, and there's also the Ritalin-based types of Vinconcerta and Focalin and Vyvanse, the number of medications that are given to children as well. I think the person has to really assess whether it's helping them or not. Sometimes it makes them feel a little more jittery. It does affect speech, and it certainly can affect appetite. So I think you have to weigh what the side effects are against the benefits. But medication can be fabulous. I had an adult patient over 50 who was a stockbroker, and when he took medication, he said to me his business tripled. because he could get the orders, but he didn't know how to write them up and finish his job. And now that he's on medication, he can do it. So it helps him to stay organized. And I think that's a key word, is organization.
Well, once again, thank you so much. And it's been a pleasure speaking to you. And your information is available on the website if anyone wants to get in touch with you personally.
Great. Thank you, Cindy.